All right, welcome to Group 1's 7th meeting for CIT 261, November 4th. Today we're going to have lessons on transforms from both Chris. See? All right, Chris, are you about ready?
I am ready. Got my screen already shared.
All right, we can see your screen.
All right, so on here, what I've done is I've made a group of 3 different containers on here, and let me show you what that looks like really quick with 3 different transforms and animations and transitions on it. And so I'm going to be talking about the transform specifically, so it's going to be this one right in the middle is what I'm going to be focusing on. And so how I did that was I just made a div that I called a morphing circle. And so the first thing I did was I go in there and I told it that it needed to be a circle with this line right here using the border radius of 50%, made it a nice little circle. And you're going to also have to go through and make it a square. Oh, sorry, I started the wrong spot. So this is how you make it a square. Or no, I'm wrong. Sorry. That's not how you make it a square. That is my circle right here. Takes approximately 25% of the page. And then I have its transition on here to make it every half second. It starts some sort of animation or transition on it. And that's using the transform property and the ease property every 0.5 seconds. And then the animation I use is I tell it to change by inflating. Sorry, my voice is going in and out. And so what it does is it takes that circle and slowly transforms it into a square and rotates it 90 degrees. And as it's doing that, I use the transform rotate CSS on there and tell it exactly how many degrees I want it to as it starts changing. And I also have it changing from a red background to a white background. And throughout all of it, at 25% mark, it has a background color of dark red. And then at the 50% mark for when it's rotating, it changes over to white. And this starts this one right here, it starts at 0 degrees for the rotate. And then when it gets to 75%, it then rotates 90% and keeps white background. And then at 100% of the animation, it changes back to a circle with the border radius at 50, changes back to a dark red color, and rotates another 90 degrees. And all of that happens using it changes all of these things every 0.5 seconds. So it changes that from a square, which is 0 border radius, to that circle, which is 50 border radius, every 0.5 seconds. And the background color also changes every 0.5 seconds, and the transform. And so this is really right here, this transition is where all that transform magic starts happening, where you can tell it to do it over and over and over again. And then you can go through and you can add stuff like on click or on open and stuff like that. to make it so it won't do the animation or the transition or the transform without, you know, executing something first. And this is just when the page just pops up, they're already going. And so that is what I've got. Any questions?
None for me.
Nope, I'm pretty good there, Chris.
I will stop sharing.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just going to be doing the basics of transforms here. So transform properties allow for the changing of location and dimensions of a specified element. So they include rotations, scaling, and skewing. Like CSS example, here we have the transform, and it will rotate the object. So it looks pretty standard there. So here's a picture example. Normally this div, just a normal rectangle that is not rotated. And here we have the transform that rotates it 20 degrees. Now using transforms with JavaScript's a little different. We can add a style, a transform style to the object. So for instance, object.style.transform equals degrees. Where our object, we could set that to an element, in this case, element name. There's several transformation properties, and they follow a pretty similar syntax. You have the transform equals, and then in commas or parentheses, scale. This one will accept X and Y. There's also other versions of scale. This one is doing the X axis. Degrees. There's also a skew Y and a skew that has X and Y. Translate, which will move an element by X and Y axis here. In this case, this is our X and that's our Y. Example on how to trigger the transform using JavaScript. So we have the variable myElement, one, and we'll add the style and tell it to rotate 20 degrees. Now we can change it programmatically and slightly. We have to recreate that last string. So this part, mouse there, the rotate 20 degrees, we need to recreate that string if we want to change it programmatically. I'm going to set the value of some input box 2 degrees. My square is going to be the element seen before. Our command, concatenated a string here that'll have the rotate, and I will insert the degrees on DEG, which represents degrees, in there as well for it to work. And then I'll just add my command to the transform style. Questions on that?
No.
Yeah. So here's a quick demo of what I've been working on here. This is just a div with a simple CSS. Gave it a background color of red and a width and height of, I believe, 150 pixels here. The rotate option, we could rotate it by different degrees. Notice it looks like it's right back to where it began at 180. We can scale it. In this case, I limited it down to 2, so I didn't destroy everything. Will actually move it. So in this case, we're moving it to the right and down. And skew will essentially make a parallelogram out of the square. And matrix, the matrix will allow us to, all of them, we can change the rotation, scale, translation, and skew all at the same time. Handy, but it's also a little confusing, tricky to set up. Okay. All right. That's my lesson. Any questions?
One thing, were you, when you changed the size and everything on that and the shape, were you doing that with pixels or percentages?
I was just using pixels, but you can do percentages as well.
Okay, I was just curious because I couldn't tell from the little video on here.
Yeah, that one's set up to 150 px. Right there. Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll get on to the next section. Just so you guys know, missions due Monday, so email Brother Bear with a simple description of your app idea. Help topics, we've already talked about this a little bit earlier. One of the topics that we've having a little bit of trouble with is the JSON web services. So we're going to keep each other in contact. Should we find any resources that help us in regards to using the HTML, HTTP request to actual third-party web services. This is the end of our meeting. Up next, we have Catherine and Ryan. All right, that's the end of our meeting. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
You as well.